Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach, psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now.
Hi, I'm back with another key to soul progress. Last week, we explored the alchemy of wounds and how emotional pain becomes a catalyst for transformation when viewed as a spiritual initiation. And today, we're deeper into one of life's most persistent teachers, pain. I've talked about pain before, but I'm talking about it now from different angles to help to drill in the points. And this is talking about the physical pain, the emotional pain, the mental anguish, spiritual ache. Pain has many voices. If we listen closely, each is saying the same thing. Something sacred is ready to be healed. This episode I'm titling When Pain Speaks, Turning Hurt and Resentment into Soul Gold. G.O.L.D. We're revisiting something I've talked about 1 or 2 years ago, the concept of gold, G.O.L.D., the glory of life's divinity. Back then, we described it as a radiant fabric, the living substance of the soul, woven with luminous threads of divine light and a few dark strands to unresolved energy. And those dark threads represent misqualified emotion, fear, resentment, or sorrow, the unredeemed parts of our consciousness. And our task is to dissolve those dark threads so the patterns of the soul reflects more clearly the image of the Creator, the I Am Presence, the divinity that exists within you and around you. And what we're adding today is understanding gold from the standpoint of grace, observation, love, and detachment, the 4 spiritual tools that restore the soul's original radiance. Let's first talk about pain. Pain is not one language, it's a choir. Physical pain speaks through the body, and it says, slow down, attend to what you've neglected. Then you have emotional pain that says, something in the heart has gone unheard. Mental pain says, your thoughts are not in harmony with truth. Soul pain, the deepest whispers, you've drifted from your divine design. Pain is not punishment. It's perception sharpened. It's the soul's way of saying, I'm calling your attention to what love has not yet healed. And here's the question we all ask. Do we really need pain to grow? The short answer is no. However, the long answer is we grow through whatever gets our attention. Pain is simply the most persuasive teacher, but not the only one. Joy, gratitude, devotion, beauty can teach us just as much. If we learn to listen to them with equal reverence, then we are now doing as the scripture says in Romans chapter 8, verse 28. As we know, all things work together for good to them that love God. All things, including the tears, the trials, and the triumphs. Everything is raw material for awakening when love is the alchemist. Imagine the soul as a divine tapestry. Every thread, light or dark, is woven into your becoming. Pain doesn't ruin the design, it refines it, revealing depth, texture, and the golden shimmer of redemption. Take Sophia. Sophia loved her mother deeply, and yet their relationship was always strained. And her mother's words were sharp, and her affection conditional. And as an adult, Sophie carried the wound of never feeling enough. It keeps on coming up for many people. Not being good enough, not being able to do things in a way that gives admiration and gratitude. It moves back into that feeling of not enough. Always something more that is needed. Whenever her mother visited, old feelings resurfaced: resentment, hurt, guilt. And one evening after a difficult conversation, Sophia broke down in tears and she prayed, "Why can't I move past this?" And the answer did come softly, because you're trying to heal her love instead of revealing your own. And that night, she started to ponder and think about what that meant and how it was manifesting in her world. And she thought about, what if forgiveness isn't something I give her, but something I allow through me? And Sophia began to practice soul G.O.L.D. The G is for grace. She stopped judging herself for her emotions, acknowledged them, did a course correction where she could, but she's not going to get into judging, blaming of how she feels. The O is for observation. She began noticing the triggers without reacting. She started observing that this is something that's occurring here in my world, but I don't have to be attached to it. I don't need to allow it to weigh me down. Just instead, I can observe. Now the L of G.O.L.D. is she focused on compassion for herself as a child. That we have to also love that part of ourselves that feels awkward or be disowned or feel as someone in our life has disowned us when we were children. And we have to own our inner child. And part of that inner child is our soul. And the D is for detachment. She released the need for her mother to change. She released the need for her mother to give approval. Sometimes we just have to release those expectations that we think are needs, but they're really just wants. That's what we want to have happen. Do we need it in order to survive and grow? Most likely not. But it does impact us because our parents are the main figures in our life when we're growing up. As an adult, we have to detach, non-attachment to wanting to change someone else, ever how close they are to us, allowing them to be as they need to be. And when she did this, weeks later, something beautiful happened. During a phone call, her mother criticized her again. And instead of reacting, Sophia simply said, "I love you, Mom." The silence that followed was the sound of a cycle ending. Sophia's pain had spoken, and she had listened with grace and led from the heart with love, which we all want. even our parents, even those individuals who have created havoc in our worlds, we all want love. And what the neuroscience teaches about emotional pain, that it activates the same neural pathways as physical pain, which I mentioned to you before in the last episode. The anterior cingulate cortex doesn't know the difference between broken heart or broken arm. And that's why old emotional wounds feel so real. The body remembers even when the mind wants to forget. And at some level, at the conscious level, it may have forgotten, but at deeper levels, it has not. That's why we have to learn to be detached. Because resentment is a strong stored emotion that the body has a frozen story. Every time we replay the event, we reinforce the neural wiring. We reinforce of that story getting caked over with more and more ice, staying there like a glacier. But here's the miracle. Through conscious reinterpretation, which we call in psychology reframing, but as we're talking about here, you should consciously reinterpreting what's going on. And emotional release, you're letting it go to the higher good. Asking God to take this energy from me and replace it with your goodness, your love, your understanding, your sensitivity and care. That's how you can rewire the pattern. When you bless your pain, not the cause, but the energy itself, you release it from the body's command. And spiritually, that's the act of reclaiming your creative authority. Imagine your emotions as a musical instrument. Pain is the note played off key. But the moment you bring love's attention to it, the note finds harmony again. And we all are just like an instrument. You can be the tuba, the piano, you can be the violin, you can be the flute, you can be the drums. It really doesn't matter. But when we are understanding that with those instruments and the emotions that we are playing through those instruments, pain is the note played off key. We've got to practice. We can have many particular instrument, whatever instrument you're playing or being, can be off tune, but that's okay. And the moment you bring love's attention to it, loving, compassion, passion to being your best self and transmuting the denser emotional energy, the note finds harmony again. Pain becomes not an enemy, but a tuning fork, calling your awareness back to your true vibration. There are two pathways of growth, which I kind of alluded to earlier. The soul evolves through illumination or through contrast. Pain belongs to contrast. It shows us what we are not. Joy belongs to illumination. It reveals what we already are. Both paths are sacred, but humanity, for the most part, learns through contrast. Touching the edges of limitation until longing drives us toward the infinite. Yet advanced souls, we can sometimes call old souls, and those consciously walking the spiritual path, begin to shift from the necessity of pain to the choice of illumination. They learn through love, not loss, through beauty, not brokenness. It's what Christ demonstrated. Transformation through surrender, not struggle. He turned pain into compassion, into resurrection. And this is the higher octave of emotional alchemy. It's the higher path to having mastery over your emotions instead of your emotions having mastery over you. I'm going to go back to an analogy that I used a couple years ago, 1 or 2 years. It was the fabric of the soul. Picture your soul as a radiant fabric, shimmering threads of light weaving through time and experience. Here and there are dark strands. The emotions unhealed, those dark threads are not mistakes. They're opportunities. And when you apply grace, observation, love, and detachment, you begin to dissolve them, thread by thread. Grace softens, observation illuminates, love transforms, detachment completes. As each dark strand dissolves, the pattern of your divine design becomes clearer. The Christ image emerges from within you. This is the hidden glory of the soul, not to escape pain, but to transmute it until only light remains. So, pain is definitely an awakener. I'm not saying I would wish anyone to have to go through painful experiences. But since we live on planet Earth, and we're here to garner certain experiences, and sometimes patterns repeat themselves, they're repeating for us for redemption. They're repeating as opportunity. And maybe it moves us to a heightened awareness. I don't want to go through that again. Let me learn what I need to learn. Let me grow in how I need to grow. Let me reflect on what has happened to me and whether this is a pattern that needs to have me do something different. Because when we speak of pain, what we're really asking for you to do is listen. When resentment rises, observe it with love. When hurt replays in your memory, that's the energy, not the story. You're moving into the awareness that as the soul is going to progress, it needs to move forward. It needs to move in a different way sometime, on a different path, or it needs to move up the mountain. Sometimes it may feel painful to move up, but take those seconds of gratitude. Take those seconds of asking your inner self, what is trying to be taught? What is it that I need to see? How do I need to grow from the experience? In silence and heartfelt gratitude, even if you're not loving the pain, learn to see it from a different perspective. Because your pain is not proof of failure. It is evidence of transformation underway. Before we close, let's go deeper into something rarely discussed, and that is the cycle of repetition. Have you ever noticed that certain patterns seem to repeat until you finally learn the lesson? It's not coincidence. It's a curriculum. In psychology, it's called repetition compulsion. The mind unconsciously recreates unresolved emotional scenarios, hoping for a different ending. And spiritually, it's the law of energy and action. What is not redeemed repeats until it's transformed. You might think, why do I keep attracting the same kind of pain? Because the soul is merciful. It will keep offering you the same classroom until you pass the test through love-free action. Imagine walking a spiral staircase. Each level feels familiar, but you're not going in circles. You're ascending through repetition. The view changes each time you choose love instead of fear. That's the essence of redemption. The conscious decision to start releasing its charge. Let me share a brief parable. It might help, drive home this point here. A wise teacher once told his student, every soul is a garden. Pain plants 2 seeds, one for bitterness and one for wisdom. Which one grows depends on what you water. And the student asked, can I choose never to have pain? The teacher smiled. You can't always choose what's planted, but you can choose what blossoms. Pain is not there to destroy the garden. It's there to reveal what needs cultivation. The same rain that nourishes the flower also softens the hard ground. And here's the mystery. The same rain that nourishes the flower also softens the hardest ground. In the same way, pain softens the soul's soil so that compassion can take root. And here's what I call the soul's code. Scientists have discovered that trauma can alter the expression of genes, called epigenetic imprinting. Love and gratitude can reverse the imprint. Spiritually, this mirrors the truth that every emotion carries a code, a frequency pattern that either contracts or expands your divine blueprint. And you can imagine the soul. Imagine the soul as a cathedral of light. Every unhealed pain is like a stained glass panel covered in dust. When you bring awareness, which is grace, observation, love, and detachment, you polish that pain until light floods through again. And that light was never gone. It was simply veiled by memory. As each panel clears, you start to perceive what was always true. The soul's design was perfect from the beginning. Pain doesn't define you. It reveals what your divinity has the power to restore. This brings us back around to, do we need pain to grow? And the fuller answer would be, no, pain is not required for growth. The soul evolves by attention, not affliction. Pain is simply what gets our attention when joy no longer does. Growth through pain is like learning through thunder. It's loud, dramatic, and unforgettable. Growth through illumination is like learning through music, quiet, graceful, harmonious. One isn't better than the other. But maturity means choosing harmony over thunder. And you can outgrow the need for pain as a teacher by cultivating sensitivity to subtle lessons, by listening when life whispers, not only when it shouts. And you may have heard this statement before, as Songs 32, verse 8 states, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with my eye. God didn't say, I will guide thee with pain. He says, with mine eye, meaning through vision, awareness, and love. So yes, pain can awaken us, but love can do the same without the wound. This practice is to move from pain-based growth to light-based growth. Step 1, awareness audit. Each morning ask, where am I feeling tension? Body, heart, or mind? Tension is to whisper before pain shouts. Step 2, listen early. Instead of waiting for the crisis, honor the discomfort. Pause and ask, what truth am I resisting? You're asking your higher self, your soul self, and Christ that exists within you, your creator, God. Step 3, then love. Small acts of compassion, forgiveness, expressing gratitude, setting a boundary, saying thank you, having acts of kindness, often dissolve the very situation that would have become painful later. You start to live preventatively, not reactively, like tending the garden before the weeds take root. That is what it means to live as a conscious alchemist, transforming potential pain into proactive wisdom. So when pain speaks, don't silence it, but don't idolize it either. Hear its message, learn its lesson, then let it go. Pain is a messenger, not a master. It arrives to deliver awareness, and when that awareness is received, it bows and departs. Your soul is not meant to live in suffering. It's meant to live in gold. Grace that steadies you. Observation that enlightens you. Love that renews you. Detachment that frees you. And all of that unfolds within the greater glory of love's divinity. The sacred fabric I spoke about earlier, shimmering with threads of every experience you've ever had. Every time you choose love over bitterness, another dark thread dissolves. The image of your divine design becomes a little closer, a little brighter, and a little more whole. That is emotional alchemy. That is soul progress. How emotional pain becomes a catalyst for transformation. Next week, we'll continue with part 3. The art of emotional alchemy. How the soul transforms pain into Christ-like power. We'll explore how surrender, empathy, and compassion awaken divine strength within. Until then, please remember, your gold, G.O.L.D, is already within you. The glory of love's divinity shimmering beneath every experience, waiting for your awareness to polish it into brilliance. Something to think about. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.